Why for so many years we achieved so much, prospered as no other people on earth. It was because here in this land, we unleashed the energy and individual genius of man to a greater extent than has ever been done before. Freedom and the dignity of the individual have been more available and assured here than in any other place on earth. The price for this freedom at times has been high, but we have never been unwilling to pay that price.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. My name is Nancie Orticelli. I am the president of the Constitutional Coalition of New York State, and we're glad that you're here to listen to us today. We're going to jump right into things. There's no need for a big intro because we don't have a lot of time in this day and age. We're inundated with so much information, and a lot of people just want to get right to the point. So I'm going to do that today. I'm going to talk about the constitutionality of the increased executive powers of governors across the United States recently. We've seen an influx where governors are the ones who control the lives of the people in these United States, and it's getting more and more concerning, especially where certain governors are concerned and the things that they're mandating for the citizens of this country, things that are incrementally taking away our liberties and our freedoms and our right to make choices for ourselves and our families. So I'm going to start talking real quick about the New York State governor, since that's where our coalition is based out of, New York State. And Andrew Cuomo has increased his executive powers. The legislature voted in a huge landslide to increase his powers on March 7th, 2020, because of this pandemic, and the words that they used when they gave him these powers were very concerning, because some of the things that he is able to do as far as stripping us of our rights are predicated upon ridiculous circumstances. For instance, if there is a high windstorm, or if there is an internet issue, if there is high waves, the governor is allowed to make these decisions for the state based on just those criteria. There's also a portion in there about lava, because, we have a lot of volcanoes here in New York State. So the words that they've used and the criteria that they've listed as far as emergencies that they're saying that the governor now has the right to have increased powers are ludicrous, ridiculous, and not even on our radar, except for things like high wind. Because what does that actually mean? What velocity does the wind have to blow for that to constitute the governor taking away our liberties and our rights? So in New York State law, executive powers are granted for 30 days. And after 30 days, the executive powers granted are expired. According to Section 29A of Article 2B in New York's executive law, no suspension shall be made for excess of 30 days. However, upon reconsideration of all the relevant facts and circumstances, the governor may extend the suspension for additional periods not to exceed 30 days each. So basically what that means is when they granted him his increased executive powers, that expired after 30 days, from March 7th to 30 days later. Once the governor and his lackeys are able to visit the information and the circumstances, he could then extend his powers for an additional 30 days. As of right now, Andrew Cuomo's executive powers are not set to expire until April of 2021. So that in itself right there is a violation of New York State law, executive law, and Constitution. He can go to April 2021, but he'd have to do it in 30-day increments and every 30 days increase it, not just in one fell swoop. So right now we are under Andrew Cuomo's bidding until April 2021. However, it also says in Article 4 that the legislature may terminate by concurrent resolution executive orders issued under this section at any time. So it seems to me that our current legislators who believe in freedom and who believe in liberty should be pushing for this very thing. However, in New York State, we are outnumbered grossly by the Democrats. The Democrats control the House and the Senate, and you would be hard-pressed to find a Democrat who would go against the governor's wishes. You think that the mafia doesn't exist in politics. Well, it does. It used to be Sheldon Silver, who was the one who controlled everything in New York State politics. He's gone. And now it is Andrew Cuomo. And if you go against Andrew Cuomo, you will not be reelected the next time your seat comes up for reelection. So one of the things that Andrew Cuomo has done is he has issued Executive Order 205 on June 25th. And that is travel restrictions in New York State. Right now, 16 states are under the travel advisory. Those states include Alabama, Arkansas, Arizona, California, Florida, Georgia, Iowa, Idaho, Louisiana, Mississippi, Nevada, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, and Utah. And this is the wording of the exact order. Whereas the governor has undertaken a cautious, incremental, and evidence-based approach to reopening the state of New York. And whereas other states that may have taken a less cautious approach are experiencing an increasing prevalence of COVID-19. Now, therefore, I, Andrew M. Cuomo, Governor of the State of New York, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Constitution and the laws of the State of New York, which, side note, remember, he has not incrementally increased his orders like he's supposed to. He, in one fell swoop, did it. So under the Constitution and New York State law, this is invalid right now. Back to the reading. In particular, Article 4, Section 1, I do hereby order and direct as follows: all travelers entering New York from a state with a positive test rate higher than 10 per 100,000 residents or higher than a 10% test positivity rate over a 7-day rolling average will be required to quarantine for a period of 14 days, consistent with Department of Health regulations for quarantine. Now, the commissioner may issue additional protocols for essential workers or for other extraordinary circumstances when a quarantine is not possible, provided such measures continue to safeguard the public health. So basically, if you come from one of those states, you have to quarantine for 14 days. Okay, well, here's your penalty if you don't do that. Any violation of a quarantine or isolation order issued to an individual pursuant to the Commissioner of the Department of Health's travel advisory by a local Department of Health or state Department of Health may be enforced pursuant to Article 21 of Public Health Law, and non-compliance may additionally be deemed a violation pursuant to Section 12 of the Public Health Law, subject to a civil penalty of up to $10,000. Okay, so you're wondering, what does Article 21, Section 12 of Public Health Law say? Lucky for you, I looked it up. Here is what Public Health Law Article 21 says. Whenever a complaint is made by a physician to a health officer that any person is afflicted with a communicable disease and is unable or unwilling to conduct himself and to live in such a manner so as not to expose members of his family or household or other persons with whom he may be associated to danger of infection, the health officer shall forthwith investigate the circumstances alleged. If the health officer finds under investigation that a person so afflicted is a menace to others, he shall make and file a complaint against such person with a magistrate. And on such complaint, the said person shall be brought before the magistrate. The magistrate, after due notice and a hearing, if satisfied that the complaint of the health officer is well-founded, they may commit the said person to any hospital or institution established for the care of persons suffering from any such communicable disease or maintaining a room, ward, or wards for such person. The magistrate will commit you against your will to a ward, hospital, or institution against your will, established for the care of you suffering from a communicable disease. And in making such commitment, then the magistrate will order payment for the care and maintenance of the person as he may deem proper. So not only will you be committed to an institution against your will, you got to pay for it too. And then the person who is committed pursuant to the provisions of this section shall be deemed to be committed until discharged in the manner authorized by section 2123 of this chapter. So I want you to listen closely to this. If you come from one of these states and you do not quarantine, you will be reported to a judge, and that judge will hold a hearing. And if that judge thinks that you are completely liable for quarantining, they will admit you into an institution. Now, I don't know if anybody knows anything about Second Amendment here, but there was a case called Heller versus DC. That's a federal Supreme Court case where they made rulings on the two reasons that a person would be denied a pistol permit. And the two reasons that a person would be denied a pistol permit is, number one, if they were convicted of a felony, and number two, if they were admitted into an institution against their own will. So to me, this right here violates a state Supreme Court ruling where they're going to admit you against your own will, and now you wouldn't be able to have a pistol permit to practice your Second Amendment right. It all lines up, and I don't think that that is an accident. I think that that is well thought out to strip you of more and more of your rights, to take away your right to defend yourself and your family against whomever and whatever. But that is a little side trail that I went on, and I need to look into that more. But just keep that in the back of your head when you ever see words that say you will be committed against your will or involuntarily. So these are the other things they say about coming into those states because, science. If you're in the state, one of the 16 states listed for less than 24 hours, then you don't have to quarantine because apparently COVID-19 only attacks people who have been around the state where the numbers are high 24 hours or more. COVID-19 magically does not affect people when you were only in the state for under 24 hours. Just showing you a little bit of the workings of the mind of Andrew Cuomo and his lackeys, because science. People are encouraged to file a report against people if you know that somebody has traveled outside of the state and has visited one of those 16 states. There's actually a form at the New York Gov website, health.newyorkgov, that you can fill out to report a person. And it's very easy to fill out. It's not wordy. It's not complicated. It's very easy. So you could go on this website and just, I'm going to report this person, this person, this person, this person, this person, and start turning in your neighbors and friends, kind of like they did in World War II with the Nazis. But listen to this. These are the quarantine requirements if you do travel to one of these states. And if the travel was for longer than the limited duration outlined that I just outlined, you are required to quarantine for 14 days unless you're an essential worker, because essential workers magically are not infected by COVID-19. As long as COVID-19 realizes they are an essential worker in New York State, COVID-19 will leave you alone. But the requirements to safely quarantine say that the individual must not be in public, you can't leave your quarters that they've identified suitable for your quarantine. So that makes me wonder, do they come into your home to make sure that your home is suitable for quarantine? And when they come into your home, does that give them the right to do anything else? Like maybe see if you have any firearms or see how many children you have in your home, maybe make a little side report to Child and Family Services. Just saying. So you can't leave your quarters. They must be situated in separate quarters with a separate bathroom facility for each individual or family or group. So if you only have one restroom and one bathroom in your home and you have multiple people living there, your home is not suitable for you to quarantine in. So you're going to have to go to an institution. They have to have access to a sink with soap, water, and paper towels, cleaning supplies. The individual must have a way to self-quarantine from household members as soon as symptoms develop. You have to have separate rooms with a separate door, sleep in separate areas. Food must be delivered to the person's quarters. Quarters must have a supply of face masks for individuals to put on. Garbage must be bagged and left outside for routine pickup. A system for temperature and symptom monitoring must be implemented to provide assessment in place for the quarantined persons in their separate quarters. Nearby medical facilities must be notified if the individual begins to experience more than mild symptoms and may require medical assistance. The quarters must be secure against unauthorized access. So basically, you're becoming a prisoner in your own home and you're giving unfettered access to the government to the privacy of your own home, which goes against one of the amendments, being secure in your person and place, your domicile where you live. But if you give these people permission, then you've just, given up your constitutional right to that. Now, there is another category called medium term, and that's for the essential workers traveling to New York State for a period of less than 36 hours, requiring them to stay overnight. So this could be maybe an essential worker delivering multiple goods to New York, maybe waiting for a longer flight layover, and all they have to do is monitor their symptoms and wear a face covering. That's it. So long-term, people who are staying longer than 36 hours, maybe you're on a construction crew that's come into New York State from one of the designated states, and you would be living here for a while, coming from outside of the state. If you are a construction worker, all you have to do is seek testing as soon as possible upon arrival to ensure that you're not positive, then wear a face covering and monitor your symptoms. So why is it that if you're an essential worker that is coming into this state from one of those states, all you have to do is monitor your symptoms and wear a face mask? But if you come in and you're a resident of New York State after visiting one of these states, you're required to quarantine for 14 days under those quarantine guidelines that I just laid out for you. I feel like our civil rights are being violated. I feel like the citizens of New York State are being punished and put into timeout, and we're being grounded by the governor of New York State, and it is unconstitutional. It is a violation of our rights. They don't reimburse you if you've had to take 2 weeks off of work. Your work might be able to do something like that, but honestly, these restrictions do nothing. I mean, think of truckers, medical workers, people who just go state to state without caring. It's not going to stop anything, really. And let's face it, New York State right now is basically Mad Max without our police force. New York City is. And what is there for people to do there? People are leaving, not coming. So Andrew Cuomo, don't flatter yourself and think that all these people from all these states are coming here. I don't know if you remember, everyone, but in March, Cuomo actually threatened to sue the state of Rhode Island for not allowing New Yorkers to travel there when New York was the hot spot. This man is a hypocrite. This is nothing more than political posturing on the part of the governor here. He has an agenda. And personally, I think he's going to be running for president sometime soon. And God help the United States if that happens. So here's what the WHO has to say about travel restrictions. In 2014, they talked about the effectiveness of internal and international travel restrictions. And it was published in the Bulletin of the World Health Organization. And they determined that internal travel restrictions delay pandemics, the flu spread by about 1 week, and the peak of pandemics by about 1.5 weeks. They said only extensive travel restrictions, over 90%, had any meaningful effect on reducing the magnitude of epidemics at both domestic and international levels. Restrictions are not recommended at all once a pandemic is established globally. So all Andrew Cuomo is doing is putting his finger in a big hole of a big container of water, and it's not going to stop anything. It's not going to stop anything. Once he removes that finger, it's going to spread. He is just delaying the inevitable. And people say that the mortality rates and the infection rates are dipping below pandemic and epidemic thresholds. That is what the CDC said on June 27th and July 3rd. They said that nationally, the levels for COVID-19 remain lower than they were in March and April. So why all of a sudden the travel restrictions? Why all of a sudden the mandated mask wearing? It is because they are losing control of the citizens, and they do not want to lose control. So they're going to set up mandates, and they're going to set up orders that cause you to lose more of your rights, like being involuntarily admitted into an institution to lose your Second Amendment right. Mortality decreased, and it's at the epidemic threshold. So why all of this added nonsense and baloney? You have to ask yourself that. It's ridiculous. It's a total violation of our rights. And next time that we get together, I'm going to talk about the 4 phases of globalization, and we will know that we are definitely in the 4th phase. We will also talk about what happened with Merck, the pharmaceutical company, with Andrew Cuomo, and the money that they gave him, and Bill Gates and his testing on third world country citizens in the name of humanitarianism. But their eyes are being opened, especially in Africa, and they are uprising and saying, you will not use us as your guinea pigs for your vaccination, because they realize that is the ultimate goal of Bill Gates, is to spread his vaccinations, to get his money, and to decrease the population of the world by half. Have a good night, everybody. Have a good week. Stay safe. Do not comply to any unconstitutional mandates.